All right, everyone. This is the final volume for this campaign. I've done so much work. I'm so proud to be completed, and I can't wait to have these in your hands. Like I said in the last video, everyone should have everything should be sent out this year. I'm confident that everyone should receive their books this year, and I'm very happy to be completed with this. And you can see how thick this volume is. I expanded this volume pretty heavily, and in fact I've done so much work that I couldn't fit it all in these volumes, and I couldn't afford it in the page counts. I expanded these volumes the best I could do with the amount of funding that you have provided me. So I thank you very much for your support. It means a lot to me. I spent a lot of time and effort, and I've sacrificed a lot to complete this, and I feel that what I've accomplished here is going to be very beneficial to the history of science, and also the history of this very topic. So without further ado, this is the volume of medicine. You can see the first page here, the title page of the series. The page where I'm going to sign and number the volume. There are names of all the backers in the preceding pages. So this is the title page of the work itself, or at least the first work, which is like more than half of the book, is of this specific work by WSGE. And I'll get in the introduction, I try to investigate to see who this WSGE is, because that's who signed the work. See, this is the contents. There are a lot. There's a lot here. This is the first work by WSGE, the curious and very wonderful relation of those new things in Serbia, presenting bloodsuckers, etc., etc. This is a breakdown of the contents. The first appendix has a letter from one good friend to another good friend. Subsig, or undersigned, and this is the alchemical symbol for gold, so you would say in Latin aurum. It's another anonymous work. And then also in the first appendix is the work by Christian Stock, De Cadaveribus Sanguisugis, which is essentially the blood-sucking dead, or the blood-sucking cadavers. Then the second appendix is a work by Christian Fritsch, and the third is my research in the archives in Berlin, and I'll get more into that later. But I certainly did a lot in this volume. Here's the illustrations, my note for the text in the volume, and then my introduction. My introduction basically tells the story of how King Frederick William got involved in the case, and also how the case was told to him by Charles Alexander, who was in charge of the fortress in Belgrade. He basically oversaw the territories in Serbia, and he was involved in several cases, but the main cases that are talked about in this volume, he was most certainly involved, and I talk about that in this introduction. But I also do an investigation on who this WSGE is. Michael Ramft believed that it was Michael Alberti, but I give some explanations of why I don't think that is. These are the various works by Michael Alberti. You can see the ones with stars are the ones that are cited by WSGE. And this is the title page, the original title page of the first work. And then I kind of break down different reasonings as to why I believe that the author was really George Ernst Stahl, which was one of the most famous chemists and physicians in the period of the time of this case. Not only because of the the initials, but I give a lot of reasons. There's a lot of clues in the text which point to him, and I list out all of those reasons. But one of the most prominent reasons, or the evidences, is that George Ernst Stahl actually wrote notes on the case, which are discoverable in Berlin. And I kind of give a little outline here of the work, and then the outline of his notes, and they kind of correlate. His notes are actually in the back. In fact, you can see I put a lot of the archival documents that are discoverable in Berlin. I put them all in here, including a letter by one of the physicians in Serbia. He sent a letter regarding this case to George Ernst Stahl, and then George Ernst Stahl also submitted his report or his notes to the Academy, and I included that here in the back as well. So it's very cool. I did a lot in this volume, and it's kind of insane. But I also break down the medical philosophy of both Stahl and Alberti, because they're one and the same. In fact, Alberti was a pupil of Stahl, and so I also discovered another individual that used similar initials, but I detail who I believe that person is, and that I don't believe it's the same person at all. And I also provide a note on the forensic application, or the application of forensic taphonomy in regards to this case. I break down all the clues, all the different phenomena that were discovered in the bodies, and how they relate to certain stages of decomposition. And I'm very happy with what I did, man. I put a lot of research in this, and I hope you will all enjoy that. Especially, I mean, I did study, like I said, I have a master's in criminal forensics. I studied forensic pathology. In fact, one of my professors was Dr. Victor Whedon, who was a forensic pathologist, in fact, the chief medical examiner in the state of Maryland at the time of my program. So I did, he not only taught us forensic pathology, but he also taught us medical legal death investigation. And so a lot of the investigative methods that are put into these cases of vampirism kind of pushed forward a lot of the science that we know today, and it's not really known about, but I kind of put that argument in this introduction. You can kind of see that. This is my translation of the title page of the first work by WSGE, who I believe is George Ernst Stahl. You can see it's very it's formatted in the same way as the original, with the relations. The first report or relation of 1725 of Peter Blagojevich, and then the second relation, which details the plague in Serbia, talking about Arnold Pohl and the 13 bodies that were exhumed and dissected, with all their with the report here as well. And then the annotations. I heavily annotated this myself, so all the footnotes are my own, with extra information, not only on the history, but also modern forensic perspectives and other concepts, philosophical concepts. In fact, he talks about this machine, the pneumatic machine, or the air pump, and how you can put not only fruit but animals or whatever in this contraption. You basically pump the air out and it becomes a vacuum. And so you can see this machine, or at least this rendition of this machine was from the 1700s, early 1700s. And it was used to explain the preservation of bodies when they are void of oxygen. And it's very intuitive at the time. And even Georgian Stahl, in his notes, which are in the back, he even says that the phenomena that were discovered on these bodies were not so thoroughly studied prior. And so there's a lot of these early concepts to the forensic sciences and forensic medicine in general. And what we mean by forensics is nothing more than the application of medicine or scientific principles when applied to legal matters. And so, but anyway, it's just kind of interesting how we have a development here in medicine, and how cases like this push forward our modern approaches to science and investigating death, and it's just very fascinating to me. So yeah, this is a very large work, actually. And let me get to the next one here. It's very long. There's 4 parts in the main work, and then there's a conclusion, the end, and then he made a supplementum, which gave a bunch of additions to the first, second, and third, and fourth parts. So he just basically wrote a lot more than what he intended to write. And that's the end of that first work. And then my first appendices, here I basically give a rundown of an introduction of this work, because I try to investigate where did this work come from. It turns out that there are a variety of reports undersigned aurum, which is this alchemical symbol for gold. There are a lot of reports that are imperial reports that are on various matters that were published under this signature anonymously, and they were thereby printed in law, and it's basically advice to nobility. And I found a lot of examples of it, and I put it in the appendices here. And I thoroughly believe that that this letter was written by somebody within the Leopoldina Academy of Natural Curiosities. In fact, if you go into the archives of the Academy of Natural Curiosities in Germany, there are many reports in their archives with this signature. So anyway, I talk about some of them in here, and I talk about this individual who eventually became the director after Tmuter died. But what one of the most fascinating things about this book is that if you actually go to the archives and find the original, which I was only able to find one copy of it, you see the book plate. It's his book plate. Christoph Jacob True, and you can see his heraldic shield here. So there's a lot of people involved in this debate and in these writings that were of high nobility. And so especially in this volume is written mostly by nobility, and so it's very interesting, and I kind of give that in the appendices. I explain all of that. Next work, written by Christian Stock, the Cadaveribus sanguisugis, or the blood-sucking cadavers. William Henry was a duke, and he was also the rector of the university in Jena, And so he oversaw this dissertation, and so that's why I included his portrait. Also because the portraits of stock, there is none. So I tried to find as many portraits of individuals that were involved as possible, and I put them in all these books. You see, this specific work was translated out of the Latin. And then the next appendices details the next work by Johann Frisch. And I found actually a letter in one of the archives that detail the authorship of the work, and so I included that letter in here. And I give a biography of Frisch as well, specifically because you get to see where these people come from and their medical perspective, and I thought that was very important. This is the work itself. Weimar Medici, presumptive thoughts upon those vampires or so-called bloodsuckers, to which the opinion of the Royal Prussian Society of Consideration of Vampires is attached. And so this work, one of the reasons why I put this book the way that I did, compiling them in the specific order, is because a lot of these people kind of play on the other's opinions. In fact, this work heavily follows the medical philosophy of George Ernst Stahl, because he was, or the authors, this is a co-authored work, the authors of this work were pupils of George Ernst Stahl. So you will see the Stahlian method of medicine throughout all of these works, not only on the apparitions of spirits, like in how the body can produce these based off of certain sicknesses, or even by diet alone could cause hallucinations, but also on the preservation and the incorruptibility of the bodies. There's a lot in here on the various phenomena that's involved, and it's a very interesting work. You can see it's also quite long. And then this is the opinion of the Royal Prussian Society. And then the third appendices is on the Royal Prussian Society of Sciences, because they were heavily involved. In fact, this King Frederick William I of Prussia, he commissioned the Royal Prussian Society of Sciences to delegate on this case, on the case that all of these books are talking about. And so I gave a rundown of the various staff members of the society, and my introduction in this appendix is essentially the life, and not only the life but also the responsibilities of this man here, Otto von Graben-Zumstein, or also known as Otto of the Countenstein, or Otto Count of Stein. He's also known as Otto of the House of Graben and Stein. But he was heavily involved in this debate. In fact, I gave a kind of rundown of his appointment. This is a decree by King Frederick William I, in that this man it was among his duties as president of the Society of Sciences to also discover and try to, he was given a bounty on different spiritual myths, like finding mermaids or goblins, or all these things, and he would be given a reward if he could deliver them alive or dead. And so he was commissioned to handle the case of vampirism. And it's really, I don't know, it's kind of cool how it kind of came about. I have a lot of letters here detailing that, also his life, and how the society actually delegated on this specific case. I even go into the nobility of this man. There's a lot of letters here. And what I found also quite fascinating is that Princess Wilhelmina, the daughter of King Frederick William, she was involved in a case herself. And I give letters from her to the king describing her own case. It's kind of, it's really kind of interesting here. But this is Jablonski. He was the president of the Royal Society, but not only was he a president, but he was also a director of the theological class in the Academy of Sciences. And the rest of this book is the Volumen Actorum, which is all of the letters and documents that are located in the archive of the Berlin Academy of Sciences in Berlin. So all of the correspondence from the Society of Sciences is in here. You can see this is the first page of the Visum et Repertum, the report of vampirism from Serbia. This is what the report looks like, or at least the copy of it that is in the Berlin Academy archives. And this is the seal of Jablonski. But you see various letters from between Jablonski and Cooper, who was the secretary of the society, and they're talking about the delegation of it. I also included the draft of the opinion that was printed in the earlier work. This is the draft of it, so I included all of the corrections. Where you see margin here, this is where it was like written on the side, like for corrections, or like even the crossed out, everything that's crossed out I included, so you can see how it was changed over time, and then the various annotations of the different letters that were involved. But not only this, is that like I said before, a surgeon from Serbia sent a letter to Georgian Stahl, who was the counsel to the king, and I included that letter here. Stahl provided this letter to Jablonski, and then he also provided his own notes and report on the case, and I included that. And I also put a lot of footnotes here where you can kind of have a reference between the various different concepts that are listed in this work, in these notes, and you can reference them to the work of WSGE in the front of the book. And that's that. That is the whole volume. It is very thick. It's about 300 pages. And man, I did so much work to this, and I'm so proud, man. I did so much. In fact, I wanted to also emphasize that after this volume, I will have another volume out next year, maybe even in a few months, I don't know. But as soon as this project is finished, I will put the other one into print as well, expanding on other research that I was able to find, but wasn't able to include in these 4 books because I was so limited with funding. But anyway, I hope that seeing this come to an end is very happy for you guys. As soon as I get the books, as soon as I get the leather bound with all the maps and everything, I will do another video and I will show you everything. Okay, so please, thank you so much for your patience. I am sorry that I forced you into patience, but I hope that you're happy and that you will be happy when you finally get these in your hands. There's a lot of connections in the history of science, with connections to these cases of vampirism that were very real. However, there is a distinct correlation between what was perceived on these bodies, what was experienced, the phenomenon that was experienced by the individuals, such as the hallucinations and the plague itself that caused people to die, that heavily increased the path forward into natural philosophy, which paved the way essentially to the modern forensic sciences. And I am so happy to share that, not only the past, the thoughts of the past, the philosophies of the past, but also a perspective of my own, a modern scientific perspective. So I hope you enjoy this, man. I'm very proud. I had a lot of sacrifices to get this done, and so I hope you will all enjoy it. Thank you so much. Take care.